Hi everyone. This is a video on centers, and it's going to focus on three types of centers in a person's design, in your design, what they call your human design. Now, every human has a particular design, and there's a basic pattern made up of centers and things connecting the centers. That's pretty much the way it's put. And those centers can be either defined, undefined, or what they call undefined with activated gates in them, and then what I call open. It means they're both undefined and there's none of the components in that center activated at all. And the reason I'm doing this is these are three totally different animals, right? Each of these energies, when it's defined, when it's undefined but has something activated in it, and when it's completely undefined, they operate totally differently. Now, the reason I talk about design is when you know not only the fact that each human has a design, but when you know your design, it's very, very, very practical because it tells you how you operate as a unique person. It gives you the power to do your thing, not from a mental point of view, I'm going to be independent and do my thing. It gives you the opportunity to do what you have been designed to do. It gives you the opportunity to take advantage of the body and the personality that you have, because they operate in a very, very unique way. And it gives you the ability to have the authority to make decisions about your own life in a way that works for you. It actually is aligned with your design. And ultimately, if it works for you, the flow over to everyone you're involved with is it works for them. Or, hey, if it doesn't work for them, they don't have to be there. And it's not a matter of rejection. It's a matter of finding the people that truly support you and the people that you can truly affect and support, those who you can influence. So let's have a look at a human design chart, and I'll actually show you what I'm talking about. Now, this happens to be my chart. And you'll notice there's this pattern in the middle. This is what they call your design. And it has 9 of these squares or triangles in it. These are what they call centers. These are 9 different energies that you are designed to operate with, to work with. Now, they are what you've got to work with in the practical world in terms of your energy. Now, every one of you has all 9 of them. But there's 3 different ways in which they can operate. And this is what I was talking about. They can be defined, undefined, or wide open. Now, what that means here, everything you can see that's coloured, the centres that are coloured, and the channels running between those centres, and even these parts that are running halfway out, they're defined, which means something very, very simple. Those centres operate in a very specific and unique way. They're designed to operate in a very unique way. They are what you're designed to do. They map out where you're designed, what you're designed to do. And because of that, they are not affected particularly strongly or much at all by the environment around you. This is the way you do what you do. These are the gifts that you bring to the world. This is what you're designed to do. And it doesn't fluctuate according to what's going on in the environment around you. And one of the most frustrating things a human being can get involved with, or unfulfilling, because there are various types, is trying to get someone who's designed to do something not to do it because it doesn't suit you. I'm talking about years and decades of experience and experience of people trying to get me to do things the way they think they should do it or that I should do it. It's because this is hardwired into your system. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone does what they're designed to do. In fact, most people at present are not doing that. See, this way you're designed to operate in a very unique way. It's hardwired, but it's so consistent, it's easy to overlook it. Because the other option is what I just euphemistically call the white stuff. The white centers, white channels, all the stuff that you see on this chart that's white. That's where you're designed to receive. That's the original design. In other words, you're designed to do specifically what you're designed to do, and you're designed to receive the support that you need to be able to do it. Very elegant, very simple. You know, you've got something to do and you need support. So you've been set up to receive that support and to do what you're designed to do. Now, where things got overcomplicated in a negative way is when our mind spent a lot of time over thousands of years of history working with the option of running the show, basically being given the task of running our lives. And that was appropriate for a very long time because there was an effect of forcing the mind to develop at an incredibly rapid rate. High stress, a lot of negative consequences because the mind's that's not its forte. Running your life, making decisions and telling you who you should be. It's not its forte. But allowing that to occur for a long period of time put enough stress on us that our mind developed incredibly, incredibly fast. Now, here's the problem. We got to a point where the return on investment in terms of mental development and effective decision making and human beings being able to realize their full potential became way too small. The stress on our mind that helped us grow got to a point where we needed to end that. It's like going through adolescence. It's sort of fun, but it's very challenging. But for that period of years, 8 or so years, and then young adulthood, another 4 to 10 years on top of that, that sort of stress can be productive, particularly if it's properly supported and the experiences are used to learn how to balance freedom and responsibility and how to be powerful. All of that can be very productive in the long term. But to continue to act like that, continue to put that level of stress on your body, beyond 30s, at least 40s or so, you'll find even great sportsmen who succeed into their 40s and I know a few. You know, Kelly Slater in surfing, and there's someone who's a great skier from, I'm not sure, Norway or somewhere, succeeding into their 40s, 42, 45. Great. But it's really obvious that time in their life is rolling up, coming to an end. And for a lot of people, it's earlier. You cannot, well, this is where we're at in history, pushing our mind to its limits. And the negative consequences of doing that are outweighing now the positive effects of growth. And so we need to change, just like when we grow up or we become adults, which these days we really mature into that in our 40s. Well, there's a shift. And it's called maturing, becoming an adult. There's all sorts of ideas and concepts about that, some of which there's a lot of truth in, a hell of a lot of truth in. You know, it's like going on since Adam. You know, there are certain things, you know, that an adult does. That maturing is where we're at in terms of running our lives. And there are a lot of consequences I can talk about in other places of that. But when it comes to these centers, whether they're turned on in a very specific way, open, but they've got something happening there, or wide open, makes a huge difference. Because as adult people, or in the past, our mind looked at all this openness and didn't see it as our ability to receive. It saw it as much more interesting than this very consistent, reliable stuff. And it thought, I'd prove something if I can get on top of this. And fundamentally what it did is it got in its own way. It literally cut off or blocked or inhibited our ability to receive, to the point where people sort of lost track of being able to do it, unless they were being sort of religious on Sunday, or, you know, getting a little bit. For everyday people, it was like, just do. And there's this whole area over here that's always changing, because when you're open, it's always changing. And you've got to do that. You've got to get on top of that. And it's not true. You're here to do what you're designed to do and receive support. And so there's this whole opening up. There's breaking the habit of trying to get on top of doing what we're designed to receive and ignoring what we're designed to do. There's breaking that habit, which is a huge thing. But it is, you know, the world and the development of the world is going to push that very quickly. It has been for quite a while, quite a number of decades, and it's going to really accelerate over the next 10 to 20 years. We're going to see that really accelerate in the next 10 years. So how do you handle these 9 centers where you've got 3 variations? And how do you use the ones that are defined to do what you're designed to do, and the ones that are undefined or open to receive? And that's what we're going to look at right now. So I'll use this chart because when you look at it, these coloured centres are defined. This centre at the top has 2 what they call gates activated. So this is an undefined centre, but it has parts of it that are activated. The same with this one in the throat area. It's got 2 gates or 2 parts that are activated. And then this one here, which is to do with your particular thinking, your specific way of thinking. And this one here, which is to do with how you handle emotions and relating to those emotions and developing not only the ability to deal with emotions, but to reach an awareness that's called emotional clarity, which is a very, very powerful thing. It's not just emotional intelligence, it's like real clarity that comes from an emotional level and where there's no second guessing. You've united your mind and your body and they're working together. Very, very powerful awareness that's developing now. So these two, this head thing, the one to do with my thinking and the one to do with my emotions, wide open, no activations. So how do these three animals work? These coloured ones, like the one at the bottom, which is to do with physical energy, and the one over here, which is to do with instincts and caring and intuition, and will, this one over here, this one to do with responding to life, where you put your life energy, and this yellow one here, which is to do with the source of life, the source of your energy, your identity, where you tap into love, where you get a sense of why you're here. Those in me are defined, and all of those qualities, my physical energy, my instincts, my will, the way I respond to life, my connection with the source of life and love, they're all very specific. They operate in a particular way, which is hardwired into me, not affected by the world around me, is resilient to being affected by the world around me, and is meant to operate in that unique way. That's what I do. I do will. I do physical energy in a very specific way. I do nurturing and caring and intuition in a very specific way. I respond to life in a very specific way. I operate, I connect to the source of life in a very specific way. I have an identity which is specific. Okay? Now, that's what the key to working with that is. Get to know it. This is what you're here to do, and learn how to do it, and learn how to allow that part of you to decide what support it needs to receive and what support not to. Right? And this part of you is you can process workshops, you can do this. Look, you can fine tune it and get higher and higher expressions of it, or higher and higher tuning to your energy, like a violin. You can tune it, tune it, tune it, tune it. It'll get better and better and better and better. But changing it, shaming it, trying not to be that way, it's just complete waste of time. I know by people trying to change me in those areas, and me trying to change people in areas where they're defined. And that's great, because this is your gift. This is what you bring to the table. This is your power to contribute, to do, to give. And the more you get to know that, and the more you support that being better fine-tuned, and the more you allow that part of you to adjudicate on what you let in and what you don't let in, literally, the happier you'll be. The more satisfied, more at peace, more feeling like you are a success, irrespective of what's going on outside. Enjoying, just being delighted by the nuances of life, the happier you'll be. However, that part of you needs to receive support. Human beings can't operate purely on their own. Even if you're out in the wilderness on your own, you're constantly receiving help from nature, from the sun, from the environment. We're not designed to operate singularly as a, single entity. So the next level is having a center, a part of your energy that is undefined, yet it has parts of it that are activated, that are defined. So this is like undefined center. This energy is open and flexible, but it has some very specific ways of doing things built into it, but they don't lock the whole center down into behaving in a particular way. Now I've got one up here. This is to do, they call it the head center. This is to do with tapping into other people's thoughts and being aware of the pressure of thinking in the world. We all feel the pressure of other people's ideas and thoughts, philosophies, you name it. This one down here has two parts activated as well. This is to do with expressing yourself, like speaking, voice box, all that sort of stuff, expressing yourself, not just the voice box, but you can see where it fits, and manifesting things. And for me, that's open. But there are two parts that are fixed, you might say. They're trying to relate to what goes through there in a very particular way. So here you have a receiver with a couple of agendas. You're receiving energy, but you tend to look for something from that energy. You're not just open and it doesn't matter, it's just you're. Now what happens is that creates a pattern. If your mind is running the show and you're not using your inner authority and the strategy you have to know when you have a decision to make and the inner authority to make the decision, if you're not using that and you're trying to think this through, what happens is you receive all this input unfiltered, and there's these parts of you that are trying to do something with it. And when it's bigger than what they can handle, now it's not wrong, those parts need to operate that way. But if you try and control the process, which is what the mind often tries to do, or manipulate the process, or strategize the process the way we're taught to do it mentally, what happens is it finds it can't do that. It's receiving and it's meant to operate in a particular way, but it needs to be, the simplest way of putting it is very relaxed and open to what's coming. And then, in a sense, picking up what it does and then referring that to your inner authority for, is this okay or not? Should I react to this? Should I take this in? Should I do what I normally do with those two defined parts? I'll give you a simple example. Picking up other people's thoughts. I've got these two parts activated. This part here, labeled 64, is to do with, abstract thinking. So and it's because it's red, it comes from over here, which in simple terms means when I pick up other people's thoughts, there's a tendency for me to prefer the abstract. I prefer that. I zap into that. I go, okay, at least I can do something with these thoughts. My preference. So one of the ways I prefer to deal with it is abstract. Now, there's a lot more to it. It's the beginning of what you'd call maybe right brain thinking or experiential or storytelling and various other bits and pieces. But because this is red, if I'm able to handle that, my body relaxes, and if I'm not, it doesn't. It affects my body quite strongly. If that was black, it would affect my personality. And the fact is, I'm always picking up more than I can handle. And I'm trying to find out what's the story here. And in the other one, 63, I'm going over there and go, okay, what's the logic here? That's the other one is to do with logical thinking. And I can never, and this is a really good thing, and I want to share this to you eye to eye, I can never get on top of it. I'm not designed to. But I am designed to pick up, hey, this is a piece of logic, this is a piece of abstract thinking, the other stuff, you'll just let it go, and then refer that to my strategy and inner authority saying, is this piece of logic, is this piece of thinking going to support me doing what I'm doing? Not support me doing what other people think I should do, or what I think I should do, or what I've been brought up to believe is the right thing to do, which may be completely correct, but I get to decide. So those undefined centers, you take it in, you find out what you hook into, and then go, okay, that's why I'm really attracted to legends and stories. And I'm also really attracted to science, because those two gates hook into both of those. No matter what I pick up, no matter what other people tell me, and I might feel obliged to take on, or I might feel drawn to take on because of just whatever's going on at the time, still have to refer it back to my, hey, is this something that requires me to respond? Oh, okay, then I've got a decision to make. See, if it doesn't require me to respond because of my particular design, I can just, whatever. You know, I can enjoy it while it's there and let it go. But if it does require me to respond, before I respond, I've got to check with my inner authority and go, is this something I need to respond to? Is it or isn't it? Now, each of you do that in your own way. And then the rest of it, you can let go rather than being overwhelmed by it or pressured or feeling your mind. See, your mind would love to get on top of it all, but it's not designed to. And you're not designed to if that's open, if that's undefined with a few gates. It's meant to just, you know, like a fishing line. You're not there to catch every fish in the ocean, but you'd like to catch a couple. And when you pull it up, you go, is this one I should take out of the ocean or should I put it back? It's that simple. So stories people tell me, logic people present me. I've studied science, I've studied legends, I've written books on both. But is this a fish I should, is this a fish that will nourish me? And do I need nourishment? If it is, hey, I'll take it. If it isn't, put it back. Don't try and become, get into an ego trip of, I've got to know all about every fish in the ocean. Or constantly think about all the fish that you're missing. Doesn't work. And this is the sort of behaviour these type of centres create. They're open, but they've got these hooks, these preferences, these things, these fishing hooks, right? And it tends to create when you're making decisions from your mind, you compensate by putting on a show. Yeah. I constantly think, I'm always thinking about everything that's going on out there. I'm always on top of it. You don't have to be. And this applies to any other centre in that design. Now, I don't have the time to do that, to go through all of them, but I want you to get the principle from it. Same with the throat. I'll just show you because that's one more practical example, from my story. 35 is about experience in simple terms. 56 is about beliefs. So when people talk, I'm particularly interested in what is their experience. And if their experience really resonates with me, just grab it like a fish. But again, I've got to check with my inner authority, is this a fish to take on board, to eat, to process, to make a part of my life? What's not so conscious, because the 56 is red, is I'm also tuning into, do their beliefs. I'm tuning into their beliefs. That's the key. And then going, does this resonate with me? Is this a belief? I pull this fish, this belief comes out of the ocean of experience around me, from the people I care for, people I love, people I've just met off the TV or whatever. And it's like, is this a belief? And because it's red, it'll affect my body. So I need to check with my inner authority. And before I even do that, does this belief require me to respond in some way? Because then I have to say, if I'm going to respond, I'm going to take this on board, I need to check whether it's right for me to do it. Now, I'm using those examples because they come out of my experience. I can't pull out everyone's, but I want you to get the principle there. And this is where things that they've called not self behavior come from. Because if I can't get on top of what's been shared out there, I'll tend to overcompensate by talking too much. And trying to get attention, rather than go, this is my experience, this is my beliefs in response to something that's happening. This video is happening right now because I'm in response to something that was happening, not because I'm trying to get attention. And I wanted to record this so it wasn't lost or I forgot it. My gut said, yes, now's the time to do it. God, I've got a client very soon, but I said, no, get it down now. Get it out there. Or keep it recorded for a time when it's appropriate. Now, here's the real kicker. For those of you who have centers with no activated parts in them, none. This is a completely different animal. It is not an undefined center. It doesn't operate like that, except both the undefined center and the open center receive. That's their primary function. They receive the energy from the world around you. They're designed to allow it in, for you to then scan it, take on board, pick the eyes out of it, what really supports you, and then let the rest go. To have the experience of it passing by, but not to buy into it unless it really supports you doing what you're designed to do. There are quite a lot of people I know, and quite a lot of people percentage-wise, who don't have any completely undefined, unactivated centers. And my experience with those of you, people like that who are close to me, is they don't fully understand it. And why should they? One, they don't need to, except when they're dealing with people like me, I guess. And as far as they're concerned, they don't. And it just seems like, oh, it's another one of those white centers. Now, my experience has taught me that it's not, because I've got two of each. And I'll share an example of how it operates. This one here, my thinking, and this one here, the way I deal with and relate to emotions, completely unactivated. These two are pure receivers. They're designed to receive, to allow. And in my case, it's quite unique because they both relate to the way I think and my emotions. my partner, she has two as well, and it relates to how she deals with other people's thinking and her connection to the source of energy, which determines her identity, the way she loves, and what she's here, where she's going in her life. So this is, and it's not specific for her. Her connection to the source of all energy, the source of life, it's not specific. It's not defined. Now, does that mean she's got nothing? No, it means she's wide open to life, the source of life, not even just life in motion. Life in motion is more to do with the sacral, flows down from up here. But the source of life, what holds us together, where our life source is, what the Chinese would call qi, and various other cultures call various other things. It's right there. It's not even the flow of qi, it's the source of it. And so she has a very open, receptive identity. And she has a very open way of dealing with other people's thoughts. Now, obviously, that has positives and negatives. I have no fixed way, so I'm just thinking no fixed mode of, address, like a homeless. I have no fixed way of thinking. Put simply, I'm not designed to do anything specific with my thinking. And I'm not designed to do anything specific with my emotions. And my partner is not designed to do anything specific with her identity. Now, that's a little hard for me to grasp because mine's defined. Mine's very specific. That's why I say, if you don't have it open, it's hard to comprehend it. Because the parts that I've got defined, when my partner is open, I find it hard to wrap my head around it and get some sort of even sense of it, except to say, very simply, she's incredibly open-hearted and flexible in how she can be with the people around her. She's very open to the source of life. She's designed, let's put it in simple terms without getting too cosmic. She is designed to receive in those two areas and not do anything specifically with those two energies. Now, that might seem like, well, if you don't do anything with them, do you even have them, or what's the point? Receiving is a massive, I've talked about this in other videos, it's a massive bonus, and it's when you're able to receive and you're very, in my case, open-minded and open emotioned about it, it's a huge benefit because you're very open and very flexible in those areas in the world and with the people around you. So it's something we're just beginning to explore experientially, really coming to grips with it, because it's not as easy as something that's fixed. It's harder to define. It's like the uncertainty principle in physics and quantum physics, which is all based on probability and uncertainty. It's not so easy to put your finger on it, but the damn thing works. And it produces extraordinary leaps in technology, and it will in the future for sure, and already has, and incredible new understandings that actually make sense and work in the real world, like in quantum computing. The type of computer chips they're creating now that will allow robotics and, very small, massive amounts of information in very small things. So the ability to be that receptive while undefined is very much like the uncertainty principle, because from my two, uncertainty is something I live with in those two areas, emotionally and mentally, the way I think. I'm just getting used to it as a way of life, because in the past, I would try and do something with it, but it always, and people would advise me to do this and that, and it would just slip. Now, that doesn't make me a victim. It makes me someone with an opportunity to receive and then utilize that from a point of, you could call it, quantum physics or quantum mechanics, or a point of, it's working with uncertainty as a tangible form of making progress. And the practical thing about it is, when I get a negative thought or a positive thought, or if I start to think in a positive or negative way, because receiving thoughts is the one above. But when I start working in it, I don't have to do anything with that. When I get an emotion, a negative emotion, I am not designed to do anything with it, which means I don't have to do anything with it. Now, that sounds a little irresponsible until it comes to the point is, I just don't have to buy into it. I don't even have to control it, manipulate it, take a particular approach. People who are emotionally defined, do your thing. But for me, what it means is when I get all emotionally upset, which has happened a lot in my life, I don't have to do anything with it or buy into it. I can be aware of it, I can feel it, but I don't have to do anything with it. I can learn from it. I can let it affect me. I can even check my inner authority and say, should I let this affect me or just work? However, if it doesn't work for me, I can just let it go. You might say switch it off, because it's never switched on. And it also means I'm massively aware of the emotional and mental state of people around me. Now, again, because of my alternative background and new age training and emotional stuff, which I all did before I knew this, if I'm aware of what's going on around me, there's this tendency to feel like, well, I've got to do something about it. I've got to point it out to this person. I've got to make them change, or I've got to, process it or whatever. What I'm discovering is I don't have to do anything with that either. I'm under no obligation to buy into any emotional state or any mental state. Now, that doesn't make me irresponsible. It's a very high level of responsibility to be aware, to not feel you have to do anything about it, but to be aware and to take it to the part of you that's designed to do. And if you're aware of it enough where it requires a response, in my case, check with my inner authority. Shall I respond without the pressure that I have to? And that has probably been one of the biggest habits I've ever had to break in my 10 years experience with human design, is that underlying feeling coming from a lot of, processing, learning about emotions and stuff like that. It's not the case for other people, but in my case, in those particular areas, I'm a free agent. But also with all freedom comes responsibility. It means more than anything, where you have openness, you're not only free, but you've got a massive responsibility. And the responsibility is you don't have to do anything with it unless or until your strategy and inner authority goes, deal with this the way you're designed to do it. Otherwise, You can just be aware of it and let it pass by. Now, tricky. It really is tricky stuff. But there's so much to discover there, so much freedom if you have that, and so much responsibility, because those parts, when you're in your mind making decisions, when you're using your mind to make decisions, as I said, there's no, sometimes it comes across like I'm panning the mind. I'm not. It's brilliant. You know, it's a fantastic tool. We couldn't do without it, but it's not designed to run our lives. When you're trying to handle your design, the parts where you're designed to do, it can really get in the way. It can distract you from it. When you're dealing with gates or centers that are open but have activated gates, it can create a lot of behavior that's not you. So that's those two. But when you get to these completely open gates, it can't handle it. This is when you absolutely need to be tapped in. It doesn't know what to do. And so it'll often become needy and go along with other people, or totally rebellious and not accept anything, or some variation. These are the centers, these are the energies that are going freedom with responsibility. If you can embrace that freedom and be responsible by following strategy and inner authority, not by imposing stuff on yourself from your mind or from other people, but really be aware, be receptive, be responsible. There is so much power in those centers, so much power. I know the power of love in my partner's heart. It's unbelievable to experience it. It's so beautiful. It's not often recognized. I know other people who some people hate like crazy and some people love to death. Same thing. Now, again, that's assuming strategy and inner authority. And I see where my partner struggles because she doesn't understand human design. She speaks Thai and it's hard to translate it to her. But when that heart is just on track, because she lives in many ways her strategy and inner authority brilliantly, because she never got super educated to the point where her mind, you know, felt competent enough to run everything, which many of us do, which is okay. It can be competent. It's got plenty of things to share and perspectives and imagination and a lot to contribute, but it's not the final arbiter on deciding what's right for you. It just isn't. It doesn't work. It will work with a lot of stress and a lot of negative effects. There's a far greater thing, strategy and inner authority, that works way, way better. But when you feel the power of that love, when I'm able to be emotionally responsible, see, I don't see it, but I'm now understanding that it's there. And because it's receptive, it just flows through me, the power of that, the power of thinking clearly. I don't do it, but sometimes the clarity, the mental clarity flows through me. And sometimes emotional clarity flows through me. And it's not anything I do. I'm just able to receive that in response to what's needed in the moment. And my strategy and inner authority says, this is the time to let it flow. That's why I did this video. So 3 things: what you're designed to do specifically and the centers that are defined. Let them be what they are. Find out how they operate and lock into them. Undefined centers with activated gates. Become aware of what they do and don't try and control them. use your strategy and inner authority to filter and go, yeah, we'll take that because I'm interested, and let the rest of it go. And, really lock into, there's nothing you have to prove in any of them. And then the wide open receptors, the future, unlimited possibilities for love, for emotional clarity, for mental clarity. That strategy and inner authority is the only thing that's going to get you to the place where that can happen. Because you can't do it. You have to allow it. So hopefully that's been fun and helpful, and helped many of you understand the difference between these three different centers. It's been fun. Talk to you again soon.